I don't know. My mom is on my do not disturb list. If she calls, it's gonna go off. I'm good at this stuff.
Hello guys, once again, welcome back to another episode of SOKO Simple, where we take a deep dive into the financial industry and we simplify everything for you that involves the capital markets as a whole, especially when it comes to the Kenyan markets. Today we're exploring a powerful force which is reshaping the world as we live in today. And the best person to talk about it today is none other than Mr. Andrew himself.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sammy. I'm Andrew Barden. I'm the CEO of the Kenyan Wall Street. We're the fastest growing digital business and finance media company here in Kenya, based right here at the NSC on the second floor. We cover a lot of different mediums. We are, available on YouTube, available on social media, and primarily also through our website, reporting on everything from listed companies, unlisted companies, macroeconomics, taxation, and so forth. So
All right.
I hope that's a good enough introduction.
I mean, it's good enough, but it's not up to me to say. Maybe the people are going to leave it in the comments.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so in this world for financial media, with the power of the internet, anyone has a voice. People can share their own insights. People can demoralize other people. So now what makes the Kenyan Wall Street a trustworthy platform where anyone can read any information from your blogging page and believe it?
So with us, part of our editorial policy is that I'm not keen to be the first person to run every piece of news. I'm keen to get it right the first time. I don't want to be sued for anything wrong.
Facts.
But also, if I'm taking on the responsibility of telling the people what's going on, keeping people informed, keeping them aware so that they can make better decisions both in their personal and professional lives, then I need to take that seriously and my team needs to take that seriously. So we have a very strict editorial policy within our team, which is, everything needs to be fact-checked, double-checked, and so forth. So yeah, we're very careful with what we report on, and we're not in the world of political reporting and so forth, which also kind of gives us a bit more space to focus on the macro economy, what's going on. Of course, we'll talk about, the Treasury CS or something because, well, the decisions he makes is going to impact everyone's lives.
Yeah.
But for us as a media company, we're less concerned about, Azimio versus Kenya Kwanza. That's not really what we do.
Yeah. So now, talking about first times, how did this dream become a reality?
So I guess we can start with the founding story.
Yeah.
So Eric Asuma founded the Kenyan Wall Street in 2014.
Big shout out, Eric.
So Eric was interning at the NSC and had some ideas about digitizing announcements, news, and such for listed companies. Because even back in 2014, just imagine how much the world has changed in 10 years.
Yeah.
Quite considerably. So he started a Twitter account to help share out this information to the world, and it grew incredibly popular incredibly quickly. Around 2017 or so, Kenyan Wall Street went through its blogging phase, which was instead of just being a Twitter account now, it started, operating on other forums, website, and so forth. And then early last year, we started to formulate the company and kind of restructure it in a way to where it was more of a proper media company. Yeah. And nowadays we work with clients across the globe in over 20 different countries who are doing business here in Kenya, and also with a lot of different listed and unlisted companies, as I had alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
So, for me, I went to school in the US.
Yeah,
I'm not Kenyan, if you can't tell. I trained for investment banking, with the full intention of doing that dream of, going to New York, working for JPM and such. But after a while, I kind of realized, and to be honest, I never ended up working in investment banking.
Yeah.
Hearing stories from friends and stuff in university, I was like, I don't think that's the career for me. Like 90 hours a week looking at an Excel spreadsheet sounds god awful. So, from there then I ended up doing a lot in Pan-African business events and corporate events.
Yeah.
And then from there, eventually I ran into Eric Asuma,
Yeah.
who was like, hey, I'm working on rebuilding the Kenyan Wall Street. I have a plan to launch a Pan-African publication. I have a plan to build out a nice data portal so that investors across the globe can access more information. Because at the end of the day, markets move on information.
That's true.
They don't move, they do move on emotions sometimes, but it's mostly based upon information. So, about a bit over a year ago, Eric was like, hey, would you like to join my team? And we really take this company to the next level. That's what we've done. And since then, we moved out of our very small office in Westlands to now moving the company here to the Nairobi Securities Exchange and so forth.
Yeah.
So, and really driven to, chase those stories and topics that, change people's lives, know? If you own a lot of KCB stock and, KCB is falling, then
they deserve to know.
The people need to know, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes stockbrokers and such aren't the best people to get your information because the incentive for them is volume of trades. They get a commission on each trade. Me, I don't get a commission on each read article. I'm just there to get the word out.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that answers your question.
Yeah, from the kindness of your heart. So now, from the time when you started to you guys being mainstream till today, how many sorts of backlash have you experienced, threats, so on and so forth, from different publications?
I gotta be careful in how I answer this. There's definitely been backlash, certain things that we've written, and so forth, but you just have to manage that, kind of as a CEO, I really have to make sure that my editorial policy is in line with, making sure that issues don't arise.
Yeah.
Of course, not everyone's gonna be happy about every story we write.
That's true.
I mean, because most of the stories that end up being shared are not necessarily positive news.
Yeah.
So, we do have to be very careful. I'm kind of stepping around your question a little bit, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
So, there's a question which I want to ask you. For me to be able to go to the Kenyan Wall Street and read an article over there and believe it, it means that you build some trust. For your readers. So, how key is your information, and how much can we trust it? Is it up to 100%, up to a certain percentage? And if it's 100%, how did you build that trust? If it's 0%, how are you working on building that trust?
Yeah, I guess, professionally, I would say that you can trust the Kenyan Wall Street and the news that we put out. Personally, in my own opinions on the media landscape is that, you should always be trying to learn something for yourself. You cannot always trust everything that you end up hearing in the public space.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter who it's coming from. You should also be in a position where you're finding your own opinions on topics. Now, this is one of the things that makes the financial industry require a lot more trust in its media, is because the average person is not going to understand, looking at a financial breakdown for, ABSA.
Yeah, exactly.
So they are putting their trust in us and even other media outlets to help break that down to them in understandable bites. That's really important. Now, like I was saying earlier, it's really important that you are looking for information in different areas, trying to build your own opinions. But that gets largely into my personal kind of thesis for news, which is if you're only taking it from one person, there's a lot of opportunity for other companies or bad actors in different areas who could take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. I think that answers your question, right?
It does. So let me ask, is financial media an 8-to-5 type of job, or it's always 24 hours? So in that case where you're walking down the streets, just hear someone talking, you just pull out your phone, type in the notes, and then you're saying, I'm blogging about this tonight.
Media is always a 24-hour job. Of course, there are some times where I'm asleep. But, fortunately, we have a team that can help, take care of that. For example, the news that Kenya was gray listed back in February, that came Friday evening of that week. I know I was out, getting dinner and having a glass of wine or two, and
or 3 or 4.
Or 3 or 4, yeah. Depends on how tough the week was. But so that was something where it's like this came out, called someone on the team, couldn't reach them. They may be out, may not hear their phone. So then it's like, okay, I need to step away from the table for a minute, and make sure that we can get this news out. And fortunately, for us and our editorial policy is that not everything has to have an article immediately. I think that's one of the big problems with a lot of media houses is they don't realize with social media, you do not have to have an article for every announcement. You can simply make a post and then tomorrow morning go back and fill in, the article. So yeah, that's kind of, the thesis and the idea behind that, because it very much is a 24-hour job. And in such a globalized world, something that happens in California can affect the markets here in Kenya. I mean, what we saw a little over 2 weeks ago, Japan decided, hey, we're gonna raise rates. Before anyone in Kenya even woke up, the global market is tanking, Yeah. So maybe in the past, in a less globalized world, you wouldn't have to pay attention as much to what's going on in other countries. But now you have to. So yeah, it's very much a 24-hour job. You always got to be on the lookout for different things. Stories break, 24 hours a day, even locally. Something may come out somewhere that, at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So.
And are there some incidences where you made a blog or a comment for a post and that's actually changed the whole market?
Yes. There have definitely been some stories and stuff that we have done that have moved the market. I'm not going to give a particular example because typically stories aren't, going to incredibly positively impact the market. I mean, take for example, I'm going to bring up, say NCBA comes out. And they did this about a month ago. They came out and said, hey, we have, and I think it was a KBA report that mentioned this as well, we have the vast majority of Kenyan accounts over 500,000 shillings. That would be news that would positively impact, say their stock, potentially. Not always. Sometimes good news can still negatively impact stock price. But when it comes to, say something like, not going to say who, but I'm sure you may know who I'm talking about.
No disclosures.
There's a heist from a bank. That definitely is not going to do well, on the market or in people's pockets. Even if your, depositors find out, hey, money keeps being stolen from this bank, maybe I should, consider diversifying my deposits. So there's a lot of different stories that can change the market in different ways. The thing that actually surprised me the most is I've seen really good news and really bad news have no impact on the market, which has kind of surprised me. And when we've looked into it, this is largely due to institutional investors. You know, if you look at a market in the US where you have a lot higher percentage of retail investors, markets move really quickly. And there's also those high volume traders and hedge funds who they'll be able to trade within 2 seconds of news coming out. They hardly even had time to read it, you know, but they're able to move quickly. Whereas here we have a little bit more, I don't want to say lethargic, but you know, kind of news takes a little bit longer to impact the market. And you know, many of these companies, the vast majority of them are owned by institutions, and institutions typically, you know, say like CIC and others, they're not going to trade, you know, immediately on one piece of news. You know, it's going to take some actual deeper insight, analysis before they're willing to make a decision around that.
And do you believe that the Kenyan Wall Street can provide or provides this analysis on behalf of their traders or on behalf of the investors?
So we provide a lot of different analysis, but we are not going out there every day looking at every company saying, hey, Bamburi needs to be here and so forth. You know, we're doing this much more, you know, in regards to earnings, in regards to other critical announcements. And sometimes, and this is one of the things that I've mentioned to PR agencies before, just because you as the bank and the PR agency believe it is news does not mean it's actually news. You know, the addition of a small feature on a small product is not necessarily groundbreaking news. If you are within the echo chamber of that organization, you may think it's big, it's a big deal. But to the rest of the world, it's kind of like
a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, it really is. So, yeah.
Okay. So now, can you give an example of like a major news which can move the market or move people towards that article?
Being put under administration can definitely impact the market. You know, a lot of other things. You know, I'm still learning quite a bit about how the Kenyan market moves, because it is quite different than how, say, NASDAQ or NYSE move. For example, Starbucks, I think late last week announced, hey, we got a new CEO. Starbucks shares skyrocket.
All the way up.
Yeah. Whereas here, I've not seen really a true instance of, you know, an announcement like that making too much of a sizable impact. You know, so I do think this is a little bit kind of slower moving of a market. I think there's a lot of potential there, but you know, there's also trade-offs. Do you want the market to move super quickly? You know, there's ups and downs, and the joke that I always say, and I guess it's not really a joke, it is proper, but you never lose money until you sell something.
Oh yeah?
You know? On the books, it's still good. You don't lose until you sell.
Okay.
So that's also, you know, a point. And unlike in ecosystems like London and such, New York, there are much fewer retail traders here who are willing and actively looking at those announcements and saying, I'm gonna sell this. You know, day trading in Kenya, I'm not sure it's much of a thing yet. I think it definitely can become something, but it's not there yet.
Okay. So what do you think when you borrow, you've been in the US, you've been born and raised from the US. So when you look at the investments, the investments in the US and you compare it to Kenya, what are some of the things that we can borrow to help the market grow?
I think, like in the US, the SEC is very good in some regards. I'm not going to say every regard, but in terms of like financial earnings, audits and such, I do think that is where the US really strives, and also in corporate governance as well. I think there's a lot of room for improvement here locally. and working closely with the CMA, the NSE and such on, hey, how do we improve, quarterly reports, because if you're a listed company, you have to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe we decide, hey, if we're trying to attract more investors into the market, markets move on information. So what extra pieces of information do we need to add that would make more people say, yes, I'm interested in that. I want to trade in this. I'm interested in investing here.
Yeah.
And this is a market that has a lot of control by foreign investors.
That's true.
That's just a fact,
Yeah.
like it or not.
Numbers don't lie.
The numbers don't lie. But, if you were trying to sit there and say, I want to attract, say, more American firms are going to bring up things like, hey, why isn't this piece of information in your report? Why isn't this here? So if you are working to attract more international investors, there would definitely have to be more insight into how do we get more information out to the world.
Yeah.
And then it's not necessarily the NSE's job to get information out to the world. You guys manage the exchange, get the data out, and help also, train people in how to become investors and such. That's what you're doing with SOKO Play and such. but largely it comes down to media companies whose jobs is then to inform the global market about what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so what about now on financial literacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, 'cause I believe, if you compare long before the 844 system was changed, now, growing up, it was always study hard, pass your exams, get a good job, get a good wife, have children, and live a happy life. Whereas we are not taught about anything to do with investments. You don't even know what to do with money. You already know once, just get a good job which has a good salary, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But then now what about if you don't work? What if you want to become your own boss? What if you want to have passive income? So what do you think, how do you think the financial literacy can impact mostly youths here in Kenya?
So I think it starts at home. I deeply believe it starts at home, and at a young age as well. And I mean, my personal example, so probably around the age of 5 or 6, my father said, hey, every week I'm gonna give you $5 for doing your chores and such. You can make more money if you do extra work. You receive no money if you don't do anything. But every week, I expect $1 back for rent, $1 back for utilities, and $1 back for food. It may sound crazy,
Yeah.
but at an early stage, that's going to teach you, the value of money. And so, like, for example, we would be at a 7-Eleven, a convenience store. And I'd be like, hey, Dad, can I get a Coca-Cola? He's like, you got your own money? All of the sudden, that Coke is too expensive for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think I'm good. I want to save up for a set of Legos or, new set of headphones for my little iPod Shuffle.
Yeah. I remember those.
Yeah. So, I really believe it starts at home, and different things like that. That's one of the things that got me interested in finance and kind of made me into a bit of a hustler, if I might say. Because by the time I was like 10, I had saved money, and I was like, let me go and, my father's willing to let me use his lawnmower. And then I would go and knock on doors in all the neighborhood and say, hey, I see, and I would actually target older ladies. And I'd be like, hey, I know you have a company cutting your grass, but they're probably charging you $75 a week. How about I come in? You know where I live. If you need me, you can call, the house. I'll do it for 20. And by the end of that summer, I had every single house on the street. I was cutting their lawn. So at like age 11, it's like $300 a week just
Hey, you're rich from young.
Yeah. Of course, pricing is definitely different in the U.S. than here, but different things like that. And my parents were always very encouraging, wanted to learn as well. But one of the things I would also say is, like in middle school, this is age like 12, 13, 14. In our math class, they had us do the stock market challenge.
Oh.
So we were taught, even before we were legally allowed to open brokerage accounts, how to start investing and trading, at least in this respect. I believe there's many different types of investments. The type of car you buy is an investment.
Yeah.
You like to hit the gym. You're investing in yourself, in your body, in your future. Even for me, I think it comes down to like the food you eat as well. If you think of everything as in form of an investment, you'll find that your thought processes and your mindset will change. Because one of the problems with the current world is we're always looking for immediate satisfaction. To be a good investor, you cannot look for immediate satisfaction.
That's true.
That's my hot take of the day.
Coming from someone who's in the financial media. All right, so let me ask you, have you heard about SOKO Play?
Yes, I've heard a bit about it. I think we actually have a piece later today coming out about SOKO Play.
Go check it out at the Kenyan Wall Street. So what are your takes about the platform?
So I think this is a really good step in the right direction to getting more people involved and knowledgeable about finance. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is there's two key terms that industry players like to use: financial inclusion and financial literacy. My personal opinion is that financial literacy must come before financial inclusion. What do I mean by that? In my fintech world, there's a lot of banks out there that say, hey, you have to keep your money with us. You have to keep your money with us. But they're not telling people what the value of keeping their money with them is. They're just expecting deposits to come through. Why is it important and how can I use that? What advantage do I have by opening a bank account over, just using M-Pesa and keeping some cash under the mattress?
Yeah.
So, I think this is a really good initiative that is teaching, for that transition from financial literacy to then financial inclusion, which would be, getting involved in the market, actually making your first trade. And it's really good to have a platform where you can start trading risk-free. Now, the one thing I do notice with that is much of the reason investments are made is an understanding of risk. Risk is probably one of the most important aspects of investment that anyone needs to understand. So, people who go through your program and such, they will learn a lot about the mechanics, how to use the platform, and they'll even be able to see, hey, I see this announcement about this CEO, randomly leaving position, and then the stock market, has an adjustment. They'll start to learn those things. But once they actually make that first investment with real cash, is when the emotion and the risk are really going to start playing a role.
Yeah.
So I absolutely am a huge believer in SOKO Play. I think it's a great platform. I think there's a lot for people to learn from it, and I'm looking forward to seeing its success. And one of the things that I love about the markets, and one of the reasons why I started trading equities several years ago, was that I felt I could take my future into my own hands. When you were growing up, you do what your parents say.
Always.
You do what they want, and you shut up.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. So when I was able to start trading, I was like, hey, I don't have to ask anyone's permission to buy, Apple shares.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask anyone's permission, And then I feel like the biggest learning I took out of, when I became a trader was losing money. That first time that I was experimenting taking a short position. I don't even remember the stock anymore.
Throwback.
But I ended up losing like several $100s with that.
Yeah.
And like after that, I was like, I'm not going to trade for a few weeks. I'm done with this. It's horrible. But after that, I learned so much about, how everything works, the mechanics of it, and the emotion. I'm someone who believes if you're going to be a proper investor, you really need to work hard to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
We see a lot of talk, and I'm going to use the example of Tesla in the US. People would be like, I refuse because Elon, I don't like Elon, I don't like his politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your choice. You can do what you want with your life, it's a free country. But look at Tesla now.
Yeah.
If you were saying that back in 2015, nowadays you're going to look like an absolute idiot.
Completely.
So I do believe you have to learn over time to take emotion out of investing as well.
Yeah.
You can learn the fundamentals, what a PE ratio is, the difference between bid and ask. But there's some more, I guess you could say, qualitative qualities that you need to learn to become a really good trader.
Okay. The final question which I have for you today is the most simplest question you're ever going to hear today.
Ooh.
Have you registered to NSE SOKO Play?
Yes, I have. I've had.
Ladies and gents, we have the first ever person of the show.
We've even had many of our journalists and such register for it.
Yeah.
Just so that people can get the feel for the platform and they can understand, things better. Many of our employees, coming from brokerages, investment banks, and the media alike, they're really good about talking about investing, but it's really important for them to also know how it works and the inter-mechanics of actually making that trade. And then also, as was talked about a lot today, understand the emotion behind it as well.
Yeah.
All of that goes into creating really strong reporting on financial markets. I really believe if you are going to be a good reporter on it, you have to be involved in it. You have to know how it works. You can't just sit, in a high ivory tower and talk about, the economy and stocks if you're not involved. You got to have a piece of the pie, that you're involved in.
Yeah, that's true. Ladies and gentlemen, SOKO Simple is proudly brought to you by NSE SOKO Play, a virtual trading platform which allows you to trade stocks in a simulation. No risk, but 100% rewards. And there's an upcoming investment challenge which is coming up September 9th. Guys, make sure you log in, sign up, register, and we'll be sending out the unique codes to every single person who's already registered to the platform shortly. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to have you here today.
Pleasure.
Thank you.